Hello, everyone. It's Richard Lewis here again for Rivalry. It's time for another interview. Fortunately, today I get to shoot the shit with a very old friend, someone I've known literally since he started his esports journey. It is NBK, who finds himself on the player transfer market for the first time in a while, having left OG. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about lots of things. But first of all, how are you doing?
Sure. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. How about you?
Well, busy. It's a crazy time in Counter-Strike, and I'm trying to do as much as I can to, kind of make sure the wheels don't come off in 2021. I'll be honest, I am a little bit nervous about some things. We really need to have a great major. I think that goes without saying.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get one.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right? We need to get back to lands and stuff. But in general, you know me, mate. I've always got my nose in something. I'm always doing something.
Yeah, so. Always working. Yeah. Always digging something up.
Yeah. Yep. So, look, it's like I said, it's a weird situation because for me, I've said this multiple times in your career. I think that you're one of those players that's kind of fundamentally misunderstood in terms of what you do. You're one of the players who are, the curse of the stats. People don't look beyond that very often. I've said this about other players, that have the same problem when they do that more supportive and anchoring, roles in a team. The OG stuff was kind of weird. I felt when there was talks about roster changes, I felt that, Issa's in a terrible situation because, he can't play properly anyway because of the ping. He's stuck in Jordan because of their rules about the pandemic. And so I figured, you put him on the bench and you maybe look to bring in another player to play alongside you. When they announced you were the guy that was cut, I was genuinely surprised. So I guess it came as a surprise to you, right?
Yeah, especially how fast it went in terms of having discussions and then the next day just having a meeting and then being out. So in that sense, yes, I had a bit higher hopes than that in terms of things that we were going to do and if we're going to go through anything to just give a last shot at trying to fix things and talk them through. Something was wrong in the team in the sense, like I think a lot of people could see it from the outside where we were struggling in some situations where we weren't supposed to struggle. A lot of things that were just unstable and that didn't seem proper for an established top team. So I think it was, after the beginning of 2021 at least. So I think it was fair to just change something, and so the decision has been taken that I was the one that was going to be changed because I don't necessarily think it's really performance related, but maybe more about relationships and talking and giving feedback and the whole direction, stuff like that. And yeah, again, like the decision doesn't come from me. I wanted to see the work and stuff, and I think there was like some ways out and to get better, but it just came out that way.
Well, so one of the things that I've heard, and we're getting into the real shit very early, actually.
Straight up.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, I got my little question list
Let's
here.
Go.
This was late now, but I'm gonna say it to you because I consider you a friend. I've known you a long time. Sure. I think you're a fantastic player, a player that's reinvented themselves time and time again at various points in their career. I remember when you were an AWPer for a bit. So
that was a long time.
Yeah. So, I have nothing but respect for you. But the one thing I do worry about is this constant specter of you wanting to be an in-game leader. And I know it's something that you believe you can do. And I think you're a very intelligent guy, but sometimes being an IGL is about a bit more than that. And almost as important as your talent at that role, it's other people around you believing that you can do it, because if they don't believe in you, they second guess you, and through no fault of your own, the team's dysfunctional. So I have to ask you, did this situation kind of come about because you were talking about maybe being an IGL or a secondary IGL or something? Because I know that's what the public will assume.
Sure. So when it comes down to OG, it's pretty straightforward. It's not at all what happened.
Okay.
There has never been discussions of that. I have a lot of respect for Alexia as an IGL and some of his qualities and what it brings in a game. My main points of feedback and direction, if you will, that I wanted to improve in the team was just some points about how to perform at the highest levels, how to practice, how to do things that are a bit more, that just takes you out of your comfort zone. And so you're not going to feel good for some time, or it's not good to just be told that something is wrong, or that you're not coming properly, or you're not awake enough and stuff like that. But to me, I think there needs to be like something that on a day-to-day basis, you're just in it and you're just giving everything you have, or not everything because it's not unofficial, but like most of what you have in order to improve. So those sort of things that are like performance related and direction. And then also some things about some weaknesses that we had in our games. So like on the city sides, we're sometimes very stalling and then not really doing much, and our rotations were a bit off, and the decisions were not necessarily the best in my opinion. And so I was giving like feedback in that sense, in that area. And so what I think happened is that it got like kind of lost in the communication part, where I didn't necessarily express myself, or it hasn't been received properly. That what I wanted was to make everything more complete, and the whole vision being better and the team to be better, period. And so talking for myself, but also for others that were sort of sharing the same feeling, but not expressing it too much. And so that was the main point, really. Like everything that I have in my heart when I come into a team, or when I'm working in a team, is like there's nothing personal. It's not a matter of I don't like you, I want to take the leadership over you or anything. It's just, you're a good leader, I want you to improve and to be even better, or leader or another player, right? Whatever it is. I would give you my feedback that I think can make you better and can make us win better and easier and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so me explaining some of these concepts, or the way I was explaining it, or the way we argued and we talked about it, I think was made not the best way.
Okay.
And it's something that ultimately then became more personal, and little by little it just snowballs into a point where if a relationship is broken between two players in a team scenario where you're 5 players and a coach, it becomes big, and so it's hard to really work on it.
Yeah,
that's my point of view on how things happened. My intentions have always been pure at heart, and it's funny because 2 days before I got benched, I actually started working with a sports psychologist to actually help into all of that regard and be a better teammate and communicate better in terms of feedback and relationships within the team. And then 2 days after I got benched, so I couldn't even apply anything or work on anything really after that. So it was a bit sad, but regardless, I'm working on that, and I keep on working to be a better teammate, really, because I know those were some of my issues, as you mentioned. Of something missing more than just understanding the game and being there.
Yeah. So, I mean, what people are gonna interpret from that is that maybe you can be a difficult teammate at times. I don't know how true that is. Obviously, you are a player that's been in every top French team, but then often that you're the guy that ends up moving on. And so I think people are going to make assumptions about that and how that looks over the course of your career. What do you think? Because it sounds to me a little bit of what you're saying is, yeah, I probably did say a few things I could have phrased better.
Sure. Yeah, I think the phrasing is very often what put me in trouble, if you will, if you would call that trouble, because it's more the form than actually the content of what I was saying.
Sure.
I think that was the problem, and yeah, I'm a hard teammate, most definitely, to play with, but in a sense that I'm never relying on anything. I'm never chilling. I'm always pushing for more and more, because I have expectations that if you want to be in a top team, if you want to be the very best and win trophies, well, someone in another team next to you wants it 10 times more. Or at least that's what I picture. And then they're going to give more and more. So if you want to make it, everyone must be giving everything they have, or to be focused every day, to come in awake and ready to practice, ready to get something in your brain, you know, because if you go do sports in a professional team, you start the day by just, I don't know, you just start running for like 15, 20 minutes. And so naturally you're going to be awake because your brain is going to be awake, your whole body is moving, you're talking with people, you're with people. When you're online, in a Counter-Strike team where you have no physical activities, it's very easy to come on the computer and then do nothing, and then just be like fucking blobfish on the computer, and then do nothing. And then, you know, you take like 1 or 2 practice to wake up, and that's already like 20% of your day as a team that is gone.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, I've always made sure, especially in the French teams, that I was on top of everyone. And so I was a hot teammate, yeah, for sure. But I wouldn't take back any of it, because I think that was always very important in all the success we had as well, of teams staying together, fighting more, staying on top of things, and, you know, making changes if it was necessary and all of that.
What's the biggest regret then that you have, kind of from the OG period of your career? Because you guys came close to. I think the thing that frustrated me about OG was it felt like those performances were like it summed up the whole team. Like when you would lose your map pick, you know, 1917, or you would, you know, throw a lead. You were so close to like greatness in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
and you know, there were a couple of trophies that maybe you could have won and stuff. So is there anything that like really stands out to you as like a big regret, you and maybe something that would have changed the entire fortunes of the team?
I think the communication part between AleksiB and me, and making it better, having better communication between the two of us, facilitated by someone or not, right? That doesn't really matter. Could have impacted the team in a better way, because we could have maybe implemented some of the things that I wanted that could have maybe helped us, and therefore help the performance, and then get the, as you said, like get the like extra 10% that was needed in order for us to just win instead of losing. Because like so many times there were like 16, 14 games, third maps, semifinal of this or that tournament, and it was just like stupid losses on top of that because the rounds were not clean. And so it's like a lot of details that just added up in that just break your confidence over time, because you can come close 1, 2, 3 times, it's okay. When it happens 8 times in a row that you come close and you can't make it, you start questioning yourself more than necessary sometimes. And so yeah, I think the main regret is to keep like a more stable group by having a better relationship with AleksiB. But I don't regret anything in a sense of what I wanted to bring or the position that I played, because the second part of the year, last year, for example, I was much more passive because everyone was talking so much, so many ideas. And so the right place for me was not to add more to that, but to just say nothing and just not add to the chaos that was already there. And so it probably didn't help me on the longer term, because of, again, the question of relationship with AleksiB and not talking much. But I think it was necessary for the team. So again, like everything that I do in a team, I do it with pure intention, I think. And so it's just a shame that it ended like this, when I felt we could have done more.
I think a big part as well, though, is, you know, I feel like because of what happened in ENCE, I think like AleksiB was probably in a different mindset. You know, I think, you know, based on talking behind the scenes to the Finnish guys, they all said that actually, you know, AleksiB probably could have nipped that problem over there in the bud before he got dropped, because it was coming from one player and in particular, and the other guys were kind of like, you know, we just want the argument to stop. We don't really care. You know, we want the solution. How we get there, we don't mind so much. And I think AleksiB kind of like felt, well, there's no way I get cut, you know. And I think probably he's come into this team with a little bit of a different mindset when he sees like maybe some dissent, you know. So he thinks to himself, well, this could be a long-term problem for me, maybe.
Yeah, I don't really know if he has that in mind. I think he would probably more thinking about other players potentially leaving if we don't perform, like Valde, for example, because he's just playing extremely good.
Right.
So
Yeah, great player.
So I think that could make sense. I think maybe what happened also reminded him of him and Alu. I mean, I don't know any specifics, right? But like, I think it might have reminded him of when me, trying to add some things to his game, or like changed a bit of, like, a part of his vision and direction. Maybe he saw it as a threat in the same way that Alu happened. Could be. And so the way for me to talk with him should have been even more careful in that sense. Not in terms of me being cut or anything, that's not the matter, but just of being careful in the way I give him the information so it doesn't sound like I'm attacking him. And so that's something I could have worked on, because at the beginning, like, we worked a lot in, not as well as in symbiosis, but like we were working together properly and we were bouncing ideas back and forth. And then I think that got lost to some point when, especially when we got a coach in, where it was more distant and separated. And so when I was giving feedback, it was coming always after several months, where I was just making some observations, and then I was coming to him. And then he also has, like, his thing going of his direction. And I think with a bit better phrasing and better approach, it could have been better. But that's all I can control. If he feels threatened, if he feels that it's a situation that has repeated, that something that he saw in the past or anything like this is not something I can control. Like, then it would be this, and it's just speculating on my end. The only thing I saw for myself was that I can improve in the communication part, and that's what I've done by starting to work with someone, and hopefully get better for the future. And the rest I can't control. And so sadly, it got me on the bench. But I think at the end of the day, at the beginning of 2021, no one was really happy about the results and the way we were playing, especially.
Well, something had to give. What's crazy is, as we had this booked in for a while, and on the day we decided to record it, you see that Issa has been benched as well and moved to the roster.
The timings.
So, I mean, what that says to me, though, is, like, could there be a way back for you? Like, if you could smooth things over or have these talks, implement some of that better communication you were talking about? Because, I think it's only one of you had to be benched. It seems crazy to me that they're going to make 2 roster changes when I think only one was really needed in the short term.
Yeah. On my end, I'm open. I haven't talked to anybody there at all, nor to anyone really. So I don't know what their state of mind is. I'm open. I think it's a possibility. I mean, again, we were very close to be winning, and we're missing some elements that we probably didn't have at the beginning of the roster, which is someone that is hyper aggressive. That is the meta right now. We have a player like Yakindar, for example, that is just opening the map, and then you have more passive players around. Because when I take space, it's like more knife in hand, and then people can refrag me, and then I'm just being like a meat shield stand first, and then that's a way I take space, in like struts and stuff. So it's just a bit of a different game style needed, and so yeah, I think there would be a way. I think that it needs a lot of openness in every part to just admit mistakes, and then even if it's just for a trial period of time, to see if things get better or not. But it's nothing that is planned, at least on their end, on my end either. It's something that I didn't know was going to happen. But I think it could be. I mean, I don't know when this interview is gonna come out, if anything's gonna happen or not.
Yeah, but, I'll try and get it out early for you. We'll use it as like a commercial or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be straight up as well with everyone. Like, I have nothing to lose. Again, like, I try to be as pure as possible by heart into what I do, and if it works, great. If they just want to completely move forward and do something else, fair play to them as well. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's their project ultimately at this point, and it's their choice. I'm just being here as open as possible to any possibility, and my only goal is to win, period. And I think there's a way to win with this roster as well as other rosters.
How different do you think things would have been if we weren't in this pandemic situation where everything's online? If you guys were going to LAN and traveling together, do you feel the team would have, well, performed better, but also maybe those relationships would have been better as well?
I think it would have been a double-edged sword more than anything.
Okay.
Because you could have either made things worse faster, because you're more in the heat of the moment. You're gonna have more heated arguments between players, and so between anybody in the team. If you don't win, obviously, because if you win, a lot of problems are solved.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you could have made it worse or fixed it. I think there's no in between. And so there's no definite answer to that. It's just, yeah, I think it's just, that statement really, it's hard to really think more and bullshit more about it. It's just, I think it would have ended it faster or fixed it.
Okay. So look, let's talk a little bit about you. It seems to me, based on what you've said, very much staying in Counter-Strike. Although I am pretty sure someone must have said, "Hey, Valorant is this cool new game that all the kids are playing. Would you like to come and play it for us?"
Yep. I haven't gotten direct offers. I got indirect offers where,
Okay.
if you want to move to Valorant, talk to me. I have I
Right.
have possibilities or options or something, you know. So more in that sense. But I've been pretty clear that Valorant is not an option for me in the next 2 years or something, I think, because the way I see it is that the game hasn't been solved, that there is not a lot of stability, and with everything that I've done in Counter-Strike, I don't want to come into a game and then having to dig everything up and to create everything from the ground, and like get in a game and create the game at the same time that you create a team and stuff like that. While in Counter-Strike, I feel like I grasp a lot of concepts and how teams work and how you build a team and what you need and the performance side and all of that. And it's much easier to apply at this stage in my career into a scene that is already established, in teams that are established, or building a team up, whichever. So yeah, no, my goal is very, very much in CSGO. I'm not moving for now. We'll see what the future brings, if there are billions dollars tournaments on Valorant.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, Counter-Strike all the way for sure.
Yeah, and you know, what do you think about this in general? Because you know, I can say the most vanilla things, and I'm always end up in a fucking controversy. Like, that's just been my
Yeah.
entire life to date. You know, I heard rumors that there were, in particular in NA, you know, there were some players that were like, "Listen, guys, you know, I need to scale back my practice hours because I've got opportunities to go and like do some pugs and scrims with these Valorant guys that I know, and I'm probably
Okay.
going to move over there," and things like that. And I didn't like that very much, because I think you owe it to the fans and your org and your teammates, you know, to be 100% invested in what you're doing here and now. But, you know, a lot of people misread. I don't have any issue with you doing what's best for you, especially in this global economy. Go get your paper. But, you know,
Sure.
I think people need to make a decision about it and commit to one or the other. So, I mean, are you worried about what Valorant's kind of doing to the fabric of Counter-Strike right now, especially in North America? Any concerns there?
I think I don't see Valorant really hurting Counter-Strike long term, even short term, really. It has a big player base, and if anything, I think it's going to put more lights. That, for example, you have League of Legends players that are like, "Oh, Riot has a new game, Valorant, cool. Let's see what's happening." And then from Valorant, it's like, "Oh, FPSs are cool. Where is Counter-Strike?" And then I can see like a shift where we're going to gain some players
Yeah,
through that.
I said that as well. I think I think like you'll graduate from Valorant to Counter Strike because it's a much more difficult game. Yeah, I totally think that's a real
Yeah.
thing that will happen.
So I think you have a part of that now. For the shorter term on the American scene, what it does is that the renewing of players, or the renewal, I don't know how you say it in English, is gonna be hard, because obviously we have next to no tournament there, and like all the big orgs move to Europe, as in the big American teams move to Europe, and so that's a problem there. To do that, I think on the longer term, when LANs are going to come back, and you're going to have all the IEMs again in America and all the big tournaments in America again, everything is going to come back to normal. I'm not really scared, and like orgs are going to come back. It just makes sense to me for orgs to go on Valorant teams and having Valorant players, because it's still well supported in America. Like, it's more supported in America than anywhere else, to be honest. So it makes sense, I think, for them to get a team then in Valorant, And then when things are going to open up again, they're going to come back to see us. Like I'm not scared at all. I think it's just the pandemic is just like pushing time as to when are the orgs going to come back in Counter-Strike, because Counter-Strike is never going to die. Unless we go into VR shit.
I feel that is, I want to believe that's true still. I just think we're facing very unique problems. Like, for example, North America, it's actually never been a big part of Counter-Strike, really. If you go and look at the numbers, that like it's, something like if you look at the total amount of players that play on like NA servers, it's very small compared to like Europe, Russia, but what we
with viewers, there's a lot of viewers in America, right?
Exactly,
like all the American
because
a lot of viewers.
The 1 or 2 American orgs that you have are iconic, and they represent the whole continent. And North America itself as a continent has a huge marketing budget and brings in huge sponsors.
Absolutely.
So when you lose an entire continent, which is essentially what's happening, even the North American orgs that still have teams have had to move to Europe. We haven't been successful in China. I don't even know if we want to be, because of the problems that come with the Chinese region, with corruption and match fixing. It seems to me that there's a lot of similarities between what happened with StarCraft 2, which I know you know a little bit about as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm nervous for the first time in my life.
Do you think it's not coming back then, when the pandemic is going to be over and LANs are coming back?
Yeah, because if they go over to Valorant and they're successful there, and Riot Games start pulling their bullshit, which is, maybe you're not allowed a Counter-Strike team if you're in the Valorant League. They've done this before, when they first dropped League of Legends, they told organizations, you can't have a Dota team as well. They told ESL, you cannot have a Dota tournament and a League of Legends tournament side by side. That's how we end up with the Intel Extreme Masters and, ESL 1 as 2 separate tournament circuits. So who knows? Who knows what kind of inducements they're going to bring? But I mean, imagine if you're a North American organization, you have a Counter-Strike team, you've spent millions on it, and you haven't won anything, and you're just losing money anyway, regardless. And then you go to Riot Games, and they're made a new FPS. You have a team over there. You get a franchise league that you can sell at any point for tens of millions of dollars. And let's say your team's winning and you succeed and you're selling merchandise and you're selling in-game items. Why would you come back to Counter-Strike?
Right. But I think also it depends on when those leagues are going to happen, right? Like, we don't know when Valorant is going to, because I don't know, I'm maybe optimistic, but I could see like where LAN's coming back like a year from now. I still have a tough time seeing at the end of the year for us to be back on LAN. I think maybe studio events at most, but I don't really see big LAN events happening again. So hopefully in a year we're going to be back to some decent LANs. But yeah, I think it also depends on when that happens, because if we're talking like 5 years from now, and then you have that scenario that expands over 5 years, and then Valorant manages to do their shit in the meantime because they're a corporation with billions behind, and they actually care about the esports scene in the sense that they're going to make it work and do a lot of good things, then I can see that happen. Because again, I think on a organization point of view, it makes a lot of sense, because Riot is going to support the organizations and help them, while Valve is just, on Counter-Strike at least, we're going to get your stickers. And that's pretty much it. So sure, it's money, it's good, but it's nowhere near covering the costs of a Counter-Strike team to be run. So to me, it's a lot of matter of temporality. But I still think CS is so iconic and brings so many more viewers, then it's going to be hard to see a hard shift of, like, I don't know, Cloud9 not having a team, Liquid not having a team. I think it's hard to see that happening.
Well, I hope you're right. I really do, because I'm of the agreement that the ecosystem is way better with North American involvement. But the sign of the times is these new wave of organizations, the likes of 100 Thieves and even going back to like Envious, I still consider them new. These guys are very into the whole franchising model and
sure.
and because of that, I just do worry about North American Counter-Strike development. And I think if that collapses, I think that's the first domino that sets off a chain reaction where maybe CSGO is still around, but it's closer to source.
StarCraft 2 type
yeah,
of
yeah,
collapse.
a cascading effect. Like StarCraft 2 still has tournaments. It's just no one fucking talks about them.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, yeah, I mean, when you have someone from your country that plays it, then you watch it, and then
yeah, exactly.
that's it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's a scary part about losing in North America. Really, it's like especially because Europe is never like Counter-Strike is never going to die in Europe. It's way too big.
Yeah,
it's
true.
the central point. But yeah, North America, the problem is there is so much viewership, so many sponsors, so many insane organizations that all the players want to be a part of, and that fans are loving. That if we lose them, yeah, that would be then it would be a very big hit to Counter-Strike. But yeah, I want to be hopeful really, because I'd like to think that we can cohabitate, even though maybe Riot is not a big fan of that.
Yeah, definitely not.
But we are also probably going to need help from Valve if they don't want to see it disappear more, because Dota is still working properly, but Valve is behind, and that plays a big part. In Counter-Strike, we don't have that because we have independent organizations and businesses that work with it, but Valve is not backing much of it. So yeah, I mean, I get your worry. I think it's very valid, and I just hope for the best, and that hopefully something changes and that Valve comes in and then gives it like a little push, a little help, and realizes that Counter-Strike can bring so much more than what it's offering right now.
So you brought up Valve. There is one topic I definitely wanted to ask you about, and that is what's happening with Valve's view of coaches. I'm sure you know, obviously, there was that big scandal where a bunch of people were abusing bugs online.
Yep.
Obviously, this affected your current coach, guy I know very well, Casper Rugger, good friend of mine as well. It was disappointing to see him caught in, even if it was only a small infraction by contrast to some of the others. And he's still part of the org and served his time. Valve have taken a view that they are going to get involved and they are going to ban some coaches, but they're also talking about what coaches can do during games, and they basically put their foot down and sort of said the way coaches are operating online, that's not going to happen at Valve tournaments. So what do you think about this? Because I think for a long time people have thought coaches, it's the future, it's the direction we go into
100%.
if we want to be a real sport, but equally there were a lot of bad apples that have kind of fucked it up for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, it didn't help the case of the coaches and of the whole situation for sure. I still don't think that Valve had any plans on really like opening the floodgates and then do whatever you want with coaches and stuff like that. Because I feel like they see it a way where they want people to play matchmaking, and that is a professional game. And I think it's flawed on very many various levels, because even if you compare it to a lot of sports, the only thing that changes for the most part is like you have more money, so you have more staff, more players, and then you just play the same thing, but it's just expanded by just everything you have. And I think it was getting that way with Counter-Strike, where you just have your coach, and then you can have like more coaches that are working in the background, and then your coach is just active with the players. And even if you want to put some rules where the coach wants to can talk in the freeze time or not, or just in timeouts, like you take your decisions, it's whatever, but don't go year after year like decreasing the value of coaches more and more and more after like everyone starts to build an ecosystem and create something to have the best teams possible and play the highest quality of Counter-Strike. Because I get the point where they don't want a coach to become the full on in-game leader, and then that you have like just 5 soldiers on the server. That I get, it's a fair argument. But in the end, it's not, because the game has bugs and 5 guys have exploited it 1,000,000 times, and then 20, 30 other guys have exploited it once or twice, or just discovered the bug or just had it, that you have to restrict it even more. I think this is just not a good argumentation of moving forward. Like, you do one mistake and then we cut your hand. It's like, have some balance into everything you take into account. I think that's the sensible things, and then people that clearly abused it for success in a very wrong way. Sure, those you can like go very, very harsh on, but like it's, I don't know, like I think the ecosystem of Counter-Strike is going a good way. Like even with like the idea of 6 players, coaches, and stuff like that, it's just expanding to me a natural way of becoming a big sport, similar to that, and having the direction of that is being shifted because the creator of the game just comes in and is like, we don't want this, deal with it. Makes it's just hard to like have a constant growth of level and of care about Counter-Strike over, I don't know, like 10 years, because you want to take advantage of as many things as you want in Counter-Strike. That's the nature of competition. Like it's accepted in like Formula 1, for example, where you can cheat. Good, you keep your cheat for 1 year, and then we change the regulation.
Yeah.
So this is not the point here in Counter-Strike, obviously, but everyone is trying to get edges and advantages, and then going back on them with an argumentation that doesn't necessarily make sense, I think hurts the game. And I mean, not the game itself, but like the highest tiers of the scene.
I think Zeus said it best. The coach over at EG, another good friend.
Yep.
He said because of these changes, now he won't be able to call. He can't be on the stage, on the server. He can't communicate with them during the matches. That's just not how it works anymore. He said, I did nothing wrong, but I've been punished all the same. And there's even talk about maybe some orgs might just cut the coaching role, because when we get back to live events,
Could be,
do you need them? Really, they can't be on the server with you. All they can do is prep before the games and in the downtime. So
yeah, I mean, I think coaches would stay no matter what, because they help so much in practice and in prep, also very useful, to just have a good direction and have just another mind to just group together people. But yeah, like I still, well, I think First is right. Like he hasn't done anything wrong himself, and he's being punished just the same. And again, I think it's a step back. I don't think it's like a very good way to, again, just process things and then to go through with them, because you want to evolve, you want to work together. Like, okay, there has been that bug. Okay, how can we work so that either we agree, like, I mean, we can never agree. That's the truth of it, between Valve and players and organizations, because everyone wants their edges and have their ideas. But at least we can argument and talk, and then maybe change direction and change some things where you need coaches. You need the game to keep on evolving and not just go backwards to like a primitive state of just the 5 players and that's it, because it's not gonna look good even compared to all the other esports games, where they clearly have coaches that are being put forward, that have like impact. Maybe they're not always in the game with the players, but like you can see them before their prep and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just doesn't look like a good sport or esport if we start like just cutting things that are extra that makes it look better, and not just like 5 players playing and then that's it. So to me, that's the biggest problem with it. It's like we need to move forward, not backwards.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's what's happening with like those sort of cuts that are happening out of nowhere. And it's going to impact a lot of players, because players could be cut because a coach is not there anymore knowing what's happening. And then players can be cut because of that. Players that want to be coaches will not have jobs or not be as impactful or stuff like that. So I don't know. I just wish there was more.
I mean, do you have any concerns about like Valve maybe just letting this game go the same way as, like, I don't know, TF2 or something? Because I don't know, it's crazy. It's the most fucking played game on Steam. Like, why don't you give a shit? Like, it's wild to me. It's
especially, I don't understand, because they could make so much more money as well if they're driven by money. Like they could make so much money by just implementing more things in a game, which is something that is also like a question mark. Like, what's the motivation between Counter-Strike? What do you want from this game? Do you want to have a good esports scene? Do you want to make money? Do you want to just have more players?
Yeah,
it's like, I think that's the main. I think it really comes down to that. Really, for a lot of things, it's just like, what do you guys want with Counter-Strike? And if people are just straight up, yeah, I mean, we just want to have money, then okay, cool, make stickers, we don't give a fuck. Like, at least we know where we're standing, you know.
Yeah.
But being, you know, in that constant question mark of, do you care about esport or not? So like, people take like space in esport by adding coaches, 6 players, and like try to improve on some stuff, and then no, we don't want that. So it's like just being in the dark in that sense. Although they have been pretty clear that they're not big fans of 6 players and coaches, fair enough, but they haven't been like very strong stances on it, and that just comes in gradually when people are trying to evolve one way, and then it just gets cut.
Yeah. So we're getting on to the downslope of the interview now. So I got to ask you some questions about the French scene, because
sure.
there's a chance you could end up back there. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation and misinformation out there about your relationships that you might have.
You remember the graph where it was like, you know, all the French players connected to it with like arrows and stuff?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the big sprawling conspiracy, like something out of the JFK movie.
Beautiful.
So look, I want to ask you about that, because you know, I'm looking at what's happening at Vitality and thinking, you know, if I was them, maybe I call you up. But then obviously I know some of the players you've got good relationships with over there. Supposedly with one in particular, you have a bad relationship. So I wanted to ask, like, you know, you are essentially a guy that like broke away from the French scene. Now you're playing in an international lineup. But obviously, I know you probably have loads of friends who are high-level pros still. Is there any way back for you? What and why are you on the outside looking over at the French scene now? Was any of the rumors true? Like, is it just mad arguments and politics and bullshit?
No, I think at the end of the day, we just came around with the players that were often playing together to perform at the highest level, and I think the end of Vitality, for example, was to me a bit disappointing in the sense that we just didn't reach a conclusion in like coach, Alex, me, the team as a whole, the organization, and so I just got cut pretty fast after the tournament for their own reasons, where I was not a pure angel in it either, but I was just disappointed we didn't reach to a proper conclusion with a proper argumentation and talking together. So there, I felt like there was no really other French teams that I was interested, like, that really stood out. And so that's why I went international, because I think it's also important for me to just widen the horizon, because I played for 9 years in a row with all the players in France and reached the highest level and then lowest points. So I went through everything, I felt like.
Yep.
And so with international now team, I think I learned a lot through a year and a half, because of the different backgrounds, different relationships, the philosophy of OG as well, that is very different compared to other organizations. And all of that combined, I think, made me learn a lot about also what's important into a team, period. And that it was not necessarily always what I had in mind, but like some things are much more balanced or in gray areas, or some things are pivotal that I didn't really necessarily think of. And so at this point right now, after all of that, I'm open to really anything. I don't think Vitality are in a position, especially with the group they have, I don't think they are wanting to change, nor, I don't think it would be me that they would call because of the past things. I mean, I still have very good relationships with Apex and the coach, and even with Shox, obviously, that we had a lot of ups and downs through.
Well, that was the big one, right? Because I've talked to both of you guys down the years, and I love him and I love you, and he's told me before that, you know, I don't want to play with a robot, and that's how he thinks of you.
Right, and he was right. Like you know, fair to him. Like, we were in like opposites, where Shox is more now in a part of how OG is as an organization and as an approach. So I played with that for a year and a half, where it's like, you have to be happy, you have to be feeling good in the team, and then you have to have really every individual being embraced and being a part of it, and then every individual being listened to, and you know, emotions taking part of all of that. And so it's something I evolved a lot on that part. And so before, I was too extreme on the other side. It was bringing good things in terms of performance and consistency, but it was destroying relationships in the end. And so that's where we had like a lot of problems with Shox, because we were like the 2 best players in France in terms of everything we have achieved, but we're just opposites in a lot of ways. And I think nowadays, if we were to talk or to explain how we see a team and stuff like that, we would join each other much more. So he's not someone that I'm calling or I'm talking to every month or something, obviously, because we don't have that past. But I think right now the relationship would be much more sane in that sense in the team scenario. And then I'm still very good friends with the other guys. I mean, Zawi and RPK are just pretty passive anyway, and they're very easygoing, very nice persons, and I have a good relationship with Apex and Extras, even though everything that happened. So I'm in search for a team. I'm obviously open to everything. Vitality is an elite team. I like what they've created, but I don't think on their end it would be the same approach necessarily.
Okay.
When it comes down to other players like Kenny and stuff like that just got benched, this is a possibility for sure. I would love to be playing with Kenny again.
Okay.
It's not easy in that period of time to create a team, to join a team together, because of the whole pandemic and like how the teams are right now. So it's a wish more than something that is currently happening. Like, yeah, we're going to build something together for sure. It's really up in the air. It's a possibility on my end because of everything that I've learned and the way that I'm approaching now and evolving. I want to be open to a lot and to just discuss with anybody that wishes to discuss, really, and then see where we can get together in terms of values and what we see in a team. I think that's the most important part.
There's a ton of good free agents out there. I don't know how many of them are French, but obviously you and Kenny, you speak good enough English that's not going to be a problem. So I'll be. I mean, you definitely could build a team. Flushes, people like that are out there. So lots of experience. Woxic, well, you won't need him if you've got Kenny. That's a bad example. But you get my point.
You got people for sure. Yeah.
So is that something you might prefer to do? So rather than join a team, you might want to build a team.
It's a hard question because it comes down to 2 things. One is like completely me directing a project by creating it and having people that trust me. So you were talking about me leading a team and the fact that I need confidence. The only way I can see it happen is that all the players give me confidence from the get-go and that we get some time together. I wouldn't go in a team where people are like suspicious. For example, Vitality, people were maybe like they gave me 100% of trust, but maybe it got lost. Maybe there was something that at the back of their mind, especially when we got Alex, it was like, okay, in 6 months we're going to trade him and he's going to be leading and he's going to come back as a player, and then voila, like we would say. But I didn't have that in mind because we reached success by being double IGLing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like creating a project will really come down to people having a lot of trust in what I do, by me also explaining it better and like including everyone more into the project, into the direction and the creation of it. And so I think it's definitely a possibility. And so it would be going hand to hand with IGLing probably, because again, like I'm improving on myself by working with professionals in order to be a better teammate and all that kind of stuff. So I do believe I have extra things I didn't have before. Now, again, the problematic are more outside of my realm, where it's who has the money to just buy out players. Because if I create a team, I'm not going to create a team with like 3 players I'm sure of and 2 guys. Maybe we're going to try something and then in 6 months we replace them.
Yeah,
it's not really something I want to do. I want to start with something that I believe in, and so that might cost extra money. So first off, who does that? Who gets us? And then we're gonna have to grind from zero again. So open qualifiers, practicing everything. Like practicing the level is not really a problem because I'm quite sure we can reach something fast quickly. But open qualifiers, grinding all the tier 2 tournaments, everything online, 1 million games. I mean, the hassle of everything, right? Like with Vitality, we've done it from zero with no. Sorry, on
Hey,
my end, I lost the cable.
it's all right. It's all good. I was like, interview over. Fuck this. I'm out.
So yeah, we started from zero, but there was a lot of possibilities because there were a million open tournaments. With OG, we had some guarantees that we were going to be in some leagues, so it was easy to just be like, yeah, we're going to get there for sure. Creating now, the spots are very limited in like all the leagues where all the big teams are playing and all the big tournaments. So there's also that part of, if you start from zero, do you think you can really go all the way again with a roster within, I don't know, like 6 to 8 months, let's say, because you want to be there pretty quick. You don't want to drag it for too long. So all of those things are being taken into account in my brain, and it's a mind fuck, truth be told, because it's hard to make it all work. First, you have to think about what roster would make sense, which players work together. So that's already like hard in itself. And then thinking about, is it good enough? Do you find the right org and all of that? So it would be much easier to join a team for sure. And I know, again, like I've evolved and I know what I can bring and how I can bring it better now. But teams have made a lot of changes recently. The top teams, places are limited. I'm very confident that would be an upgrade over a lot of, I guess, a lot of players in top teams, but teams don't necessarily see it the same way. So I'm just being active. I'm talking to people. I'm showing them that I'm evolving, that I'm getting better, that I've done good with OG as well, and trying to get a place, really like trying to prove myself, even though I'm here for 10 years. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's something that players really underestimate, but I've been here for 10 years. I've won more than most of the players. I'm still working twice harder than them to get back in the roster, to prove myself, to just be active in what I'm doing and not just letting it go. And I think it's cool to do it as well. Like, it's great to work. It's great to do that in that sense. It's a change.
So last question then. Obviously you're not going to want to sit on the sidelines for too long. In your mind, have you set yourself kind of a deadline to have this resolved by? And if you're not on a team by that time, that's when you're going to like maybe look at other opportunities?
Yeah. I don't have like, so the main things, I think, of where teams are going to start changing or discussing those opportunities will be when EPL is done probably, as well as when the first RMR tournament is going to be announced, because obviously with the roster change rules, fucking shit, like it's already hard enough to get points. You don't want to lose them.
What a mess.
So yeah, so like if you start losing 20% because you change a player or some shit like that, teams will want to be set with a roster before that. So in that sense, I think those are the two big deadlines really. And if something happened by then just people don't want me. Maybe I don't have the level anymore. Maybe I'm not seen as a good enough player. You know, like it's a possibility that I have in the back of my brain that I want to eliminate, because it causes like some sort of anxiety and being unsure. And like it's a fucking terrible feeling. But it's a possibility, and I know it's a reality, possibly. Okay. So I'm just waiting. I have those sort of deadlines. I'm also on the side doing as much as I can in terms of, does a roster being put together make sense, like either a fully French one or an international one? There are possibilities. There are paths that are possible, but nothing is certain. Like for me, again, like it's the idea that I'm really open to anything that's happening, and I'll see when. If I just have the one thing that clicks, I would know it instantly, because that's how I worked with my past teams, creating teams, joining a game, recruiting players. I knew instantly, yes, this is working. And I think I have that good feeling that when the right offer is going to happen, I think I'm just going to jump on it and not second guess it.
Right. Well, there we go. Almost bang on the time. So look, it's been a while since we've had a good sit down, because you and me are always busy, workaholics of the world unite. But listen, I'm sure there's going to be a team that's interested in picking you up, especially, you know, now I feel experience is like such a valuable commodity. And you know, there's not many players who've got the levels that you do. So thanks so much for coming on, and I wish you all the best. I look forward to talking about your inevitable move on By the Numbers in a few weeks.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and there you have it, everyone. That was NBK. Obviously, show him some love. You know, all his social media will be up on the screen. Go
Thanks.
follow him, and yeah, you can leave a comment down below. Tell me what team you'd like to see NBK fit into. Obviously, like, subscribe for more content. Yeah, yeah. Theorycraft
Help
away.
me! Help me!
So there you have it. Obviously, you'll get more content like this on the Rivalry channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.
See ya.